Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I'm your host Ethan, and today I'll be going over and reviewing Red Dead Online. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, since this is a Western game, I figured I'd get into character a bit more, hence the hat. Anyway, I'll be breaking this review up into sections, and I'll leave timestamps in the description so you can skip to different sections if you so desire. To start with, I feel like I should give some context for Red Dead Online. Red Dead Online is an MMO released by Rockstar Games on the 14th of May 2019 as a multiplayer side mode for Red Dead Redemption 2, but then released standalone on the 1st of December 2020. During its life, it had many updates that improved or updated aspects of the game, such as money balances, wildlife balances, and essentially a lot of balancing, especially in the gameplay. It also released some more interesting updates, such as updates that added more modes and items. But the updates everyone remembers the most and had the largest impacts on the game are the major content updates. These were large DLCs for the game that added entire new functionality to it for free. Or at least, kind of. You see, they were added to the game, but you could only unlock them with Rockstar's premium in-game currency, gold bars, which you can technically earn in the game, but it will take you a long time to get them, as each mission will only give you 0.01 to 0.5 of a gold bar at best, and each expansion was priced at 15 to 25 gold bars. So yeah, this wasn't too well received. But at the end of the day, Red Dead Online needed to earn money in some way, and to be fair, if you enjoyed playing the game, you are likely to eventually buy all the expansion packs anyway. The first expansion was the Frontier Pursuits expansion that added 3 roles players could buy for 15 gold bars each: the Collector, the Bounty Hunter, and the Trader roles. The Moonshiner update added the Moonshiner role, which came with a new campaign to play through, which was priced at 25 gold bars. The Naturalist expansion added a new role and a shop for players to access, with the shop being free to use but sells expensive items, and the Naturalist role being priced at 25 gold bars. The Bounty Hunter expansion update added a new prestigious Bounty Hunter role, which adds more bounties to complete for 15 more gold bars, on top of the 15 gold bars to purchase the Bounty Hunter role. The final major content update was the Blood Money update. It added some heists and more missions for completely free. I'll be reviewing each of these roles and ranking them at the end of the video, so stay tuned until then. The last major update was in 2021, and Rockstar have now confirmed that there will not be any more major content updates for the game. So as you can probably tell, after announcing the game will no longer be supported, the player base has been on a bit of a downward spiral. Even though it should be completely dead already, the game still averages a solid 1,500 players each day, and that's only looking at the standalone game on PC, so it's probably even more than that. Which is kind of crazy considering that games like Star Wars Battlefront 2, Battlebit Remastered, Subnautica, and Doom Eternal, which are massive games that are considered to be big in popularity, are averaging less than this. Anyway, I'm getting a bit distracted, and it's about time that I start the review already. The story in Red Dead Online is split up into 2 campaigns, with one being the base game story, and the other being part of the Moonshine expansion. I'll be playing both for this review, although to be fair, the stories aren't that deep in the online mode, so don't come into this thinking that you're about to play an amazing, memorable story with deep and intricate characters, because they're not.
You know, I used to like that kind of stuff. One time, I almost helped a clown steal an elephant. But that's a very silly story.
Because of the lack of meaningful story, there'll be spoilers ahead. So if you want to experience the story for yourself, I'd just skip this section using the timestamps in the description. The story begins with you as the player being in Sisika Penitentiary. You get in a wagon to be transferred somewhere, presumably to be hanged, but on the way the wagon is stopped by 3 armed gunmen and a stagecoach blocking the road. The gunmen let all the prisoners free, but ask the player specifically to come with them. The 2 gunmen walk away, but there's one left called Hawley, and he explains that you were imprisoned because you were framed for the murder of Jessica Leclerc's husband. It is then revealed that the reason you were broken out was so that you could help her find out which of the 4 possible suspects killed her husband. You then meet a man named Cripps, who is the player's camp helper guy. You then go to the post office to meet a guy named Olden who can give you simple stagecoach missions. This is a pretty good setup for the story in my opinion, and it's done really well, and gives the player a good motive to help out Jessica Leclerc, It makes the world feel alive at the same time, as now you know why your character was in prison to begin with. Not to mention that the characters all have really good and natural movements and excellent voice acting. However, one thing that is really noticeable straight away is the character's lack of a voice. This makes certain situations look really silly, and will continue throughout the game as the player just sits there and can only answer yes or no. This is done so that the player can self-insert themselves into the character, but even a selection of 3 or 4 voices would have been good, but admittedly after a while you do get used to it. To continue the story, you're given a mission to meet 2 brothers who steal horses steal horses. You steal a horse and they let you keep it. And they even let you do business again in the future.
Listen to me for a second. Any other decent horses you find, we'll buy them. Just as soon as we are set up, okay? Nice meeting you.
You never see them again. You're given the option to name your trusty steed, so I named my horse Gareth, of course. You then go back to your camp to meet Cripps, who explains how to use the camp. It was at this point in my notes where I wrote, I'm very keen to see where this story is going. Anyway, continuing. We are told by Hawley that before we can continue, we have to speak to all of the sheriffs around the map. Each time you meet a sheriff, you're given a mission to do, either by the sheriff or someone close by. It doesn't really make much sense that we're going straight to law people, considering we've literally just escaped from prison, but whatever, you know. At the end of the missions, you're given difficult choices between moral dilemmas which can change your pay, honor level, and ending of the mission. But these are self-contained stories and don't link to the main plot, with most of them just being silly references to Western movies and culture.
You're an imbecile.
A what?
An idiot.
I'm sorry. He said he wouldn't run away.
Shut up.
But,
Please!
but...
Just shut up!
Afterwards, you meet up with Hawley and are introduced to a man named Mr. Jones, who introduces us to the honor system through his dialogue. Hawley tells us to go to a guy named Samson Finch to do some missions with him. This introduces us to both ends of the spectrum for missions in Red Dead Online, as it already showed us some lawful missions with sheriffs. Now Samson's missions are going to show us some unlawful missions. We meet up with Samson Finch, who tells us that his partner betrayed him, so now he must go and steal a robbery from his old partner.
Now, I ain't gonna pretend it's not a nasty business. We're robbing robbers that know they're gonna get robbed. Not outlaws, the real robbers.
After a couple missions setting everything up, we rob the bank.
There you are. Come in. I believe the... Please. You've got your time. Uncle God!
After the robbery, we regroup on a train where Samson says farewell and leaves. We eventually kill 2 accomplices of the guy who set us up in prison and killed Jessica Leclerc's husband. We meet up with Jessica in person again for a final climax to the story, where we go into town to meet the man responsible for all of this, and Jessica pulls off a bag assassination.
Well, then you have little to fear of death, you god-awful swine.
We help Jessica and Hawley to escape, and she says goodbye.
And my husband has been avenged. My friends, my true friends, I owe you more than words can say. Thank you. And should our paths cross again, and, well, I'm sure they may. But right now, I need to make myself scarce. And I recommend that you all do your best not to get into too much additional trouble. That's your business. My poor husband, he deserves so much better than this, but this is what he got. This is what we all got. Drive on, Mr. Hawley.
As she mentioned, the story shouldn't be over yet, as we have only found 3 or 4 of the people responsible for her husband's death. But there are no more missions available after this in the story, and this is the story's conclusion for now. What I think has happened here is that Rockstar wanted to expand the story over time with future updates, but never got around to it as they discontinued Red Dead Online. So now the story is just left in an unfinished state, which is rather unfortunate as it was rather good overall, and the acting and writing was well done, even if the story itself is pretty surface level. Anyway, before I can move on to the next section, I'm going to quickly summarise the second, more short campaign that comes with the Moonshiner role. So you meet up with a Moonshiner named Maggie, who sends you on missions to sabotage and recover equipment, and people to help boost her moonshining business, with a goal to become the best and probably only moonshiner in the area. I bet you're wondering, so what happens in the story? Well, that's just it. I summarised the entire story in 2 sentences. There aren't any memorable or interesting characters except for Maggie, and the plot is just really straightforward. It's just go there, kill these people, or take this person, or get this equipment. There's no interesting storyline here. Although, to be fair, the story isn't the main focus for this expansion, and it's only really there to set up the expansion and ground it more in reality, and show how it all gets set up. During both campaigns, the characters stay consistent and are well performed and written realistically, and match the theming of the time period well. In cutscenes, you can still see the world around the characters moving and continuing, whether that be the birds flying, trees blowing, the wind, people doing jobs or minding their own business, which helps to further ground the player in a real physical space, and sells the illusion of the world being another reality instead of just a game for the player to play through. Okay, so now that the story is covered, we can move on to the gameplay. The main gameplay loop of Red Dead Online is to go to a location, kill some enemies, get something or someone, and leave in a horse chase. Some missions even do this more than once. It's quite rare to find missions that don't follow this pattern, and they are usually part of an expansion. I should also mention that the majority of the game is just horse riding simulator basically. That being said, it doesn't get old too quickly, with the first 10 hours or so being quite enjoyable, as the game's grinding routine hasn't set in yet. After that, the game begins to wear on you as you begin to realise that all of the missions are basically the same mission in a different place or with a different story, and they all blend together in your mind. Admittedly, the gameplay loop is fun even after you realise that they're all the same, but this causes the player to only play the game in short bursts, rather than how Rockstar have intended the game to be played, which is by grinding for long hours or giving them money. The controls are easy to learn on controller. I can't really speak for keyboard and mouse players as I've never played on that, but from what I've heard from people online, the common consensus is that they feel a bit too weighty, and they're more fluid on controller, which I can vouch for, as once you've played the game enough you can get into a flow state of sorts where you feel invincible as you mow down enemies with ease, not even having to think for a second about it, with a kill just being 2 buttons and a flick of a stick away, or sometimes just 1 button. The game is generally easy overall, but the harder difficulties offer a good challenge, and at no points does the game feel frustrating. Overall, the gameplay feels quite weighty and grounded in reality, with a good flow that you could enjoy playing over and over again for a long time. Next section. The game is stunning. There isn't really much more to say, the game just looks beautiful. Everything looks super realistic and nothing looks out of place. Everywhere you look there is a huge amount of detail that you just don't see in that many games. I played the game a few years ago and I remember using it to take absolutely tons of in-game photography of the landscapes and the world. The graphics match the game's feel perfectly and complements the game's realistic and grounded stories and gameplay. The game is super well optimized, but despite this, you'll still need a somewhat decent computer to play it. So don't expect to be playing this game on your crappy school laptop anytime soon. During the game I encountered a lot of bugs, with pretty much all of them being visual bugs. I've asked friends in the past if they can see some of these bugs, and it seems that everyone sees different bugs to each other. So you could be seeing a nearby turkey with fire coming out of its mouth, and they could be seeing a nearby wolf with fire coming from its leg. Overall, none of the bugs are game breaking, just visual glitches, although they do break the immersion when they occur. Time to talk about audio. The music in Red Dead Online is atmospheric and soft. The music doesn't try to intrude or take over from the gameplay at any point. Even in high action moments, the music stays at a safe rhythm and doesn't go very crazy. The reason it's designed in this way is to make the player focus on the gameplay and the graphics instead of the music. However, this is also a negative in this game's situation, as when grinding the game feels mundane and the music doesn't elevate it at all, so it makes the game feel exceedingly stale at times. Despite what I just said, I do think the music is good, it's just that the game seems to favour 4 or 5 specific tracks which can get repetitive. I should also mention that it isn't always playing, with occasional moments where you'll just be exploring and hear a soft guitar strum come in for a second and then fades away, which leans into the Western setting and really immerses you into the world. It's times like these where the music elevates the gameplay. The weapon sound effects in Red Dead Online feel real, and sound effects are really satisfying and punchy, with animal sounds sounding like real animals. I don't really have anything else to say about them, as they just sound great, and they add to the realism of the world. Have a listen. The voice acting is also top notch, which shouldn't really come as a surprise considering that this is a Rockstar game, but nevertheless is still another factor that helps to immerse you in the world of Red Dead Online. Here's some of that in case you skipped the story section.
Sheriff,
About what?
my stolen property.
Well, ain't much I can do about it. I ain't got the manpower to go after Bob Crawfish. Howdy.
I'll do. I pay your goddamn wages, me and folks like me.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Arnsdale. Really, I am. But there ain't nothing I can do about this. Now without more support and funding...
Will you go for me?
Wait, what?
Go. See if you can retrieve my lawful property from some goddamn thief.
Ain't nobody knows who took your stuff, mister.
I seem like some kind of liar. Is that why you won't help me?
No, but...
I'll admit that I'm not exactly a sounds expert, so I'm going to move on now as I don't really know what else to add to this section. This is mainly a multiplayer game, so it comes as no surprise that multiplayer is relatively smooth, with a lot of modes and missions being centered around having friends to play with. There are multiple modes with different ideas like deathmatch and horse racing, but all are generally bad as the PvP in game is not very good. The missions that require multiplayer don't do anything really unique other than maybe voting systems for the moral dilemmas at the end of the main story missions. Missions can be played with up to 4 players, which is probably the ideal amount of players to fully enjoy the game. But even just you and a friend would definitely be enough to get the most out of the content here. My main issue with the multiplayer is the matchmaking load times for multiplayer required missions if you're playing by yourself, as they can take upwards of 5 to 10 minutes, with it sometimes still not being able to find other players to start the mission. I can only assume that this is a byproduct of the game being discontinued and the fanbase kind of dying out, as there are a lack of new players playing the main story missions. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the second to last section of this review, which is the replayability section. This section could get really long, so I'm going to try and keep it brief. Does Red Dead Online offer enough content for its price? Technically yes, but I'm going to say no, considering that I don't view replaying the same missions over and over again as different content. The game is definitely worth its £10 price tag when it's on sale though, since you can't really go wrong with the quality and overall enjoyment to be had here. I didn't mention this earlier in the video, but there's a lot of side content in this game. Like a lot. There's potentially hundreds of hours of content to be had here if you enjoy it. Like the blood money missions, which allow you to do heists, which are some of the best missions in the entire game.
For some time now, the organization that I represent has been using a unique system of exchange for our more sensitive business dealings. This we call Capitale.
The main reason that I used to keep coming back to the game, and you'll probably keep coming back to the game, is its world. The world in Red Dead Online is massive, and has a huge amount of detail and variety, with maybe 10 or so different biomes to explore and lots of small structures, houses, ruins, landscapes and wildlife all over the map. Not to mention that the map is massive, with it taking ages to travel between places like towns and cities, and still having a lot to look at along the way. That being said, I don't really think that there's a whole lot of replayability in this game other than just grinding the same missions over and over again to get new content which you'll also grind over and over again. Despite all this, in the past this game has had me hooked, which has resulted in it being my most played game on Steam. And to be fair, when playing the game from the start again after 4 months of not playing the game for this video, I was still able to be hooked, or at least for the first 10 hours or so, which as I've probably mentioned to death already, is when the grind sets in. The physics are also really fun, and occasionally makes me come back just to mess with the ragdoll and NPC systems, which is still the best in gaming due to having Euphoria physics, minus maybe GTA 4's ragdoll system. think that covers the replayability section, and now I can move on to the last section, the conclusion, where I'll also be ranking the expansions. Okay, so I figured I'd kick off the conclusion by ranking the expansions. Okay, so starting with the worst expansion, I'm going to say that it's the Naturalist. This expansion sucks. So let's say you're doing anything in the game and you accidentally kill an animal or run one over with your horse, or you did the last time you played, and you decided, you know what, I'm going to try and level up my Naturalist role, or I'm going to play a Naturalist mission. Well, guess what? You can't. For some reason, she sprays you with this crazy flipping spray that makes you hallucinate or something, and then you end up somewhere random nearby, and when you finally make it back to her, she will refuse to talk to you for like 5 to 10 minutes. And even when you can play the missions, they're just sedate this animal which can take multiple bullets to the head, or save these animals, save these animals. And I bet you're wondering, how do you do that? By killing hunters, of course. Yeah, so for some reason she cares so much when you kill a little turkey with your horse by accident halfway across the map, but when you kill an entire camp of hunters of around 20 to 30 people in them, it's totally fine. Harriet is easily the worst character in this game, so that's why we're placing it at the bottom of the ranking list. The second worst expansion has to be the Trader role. This role is easily the most mundane and tedious, as it gives you one mission type that you can only perform every once in a while, which is literally just go from point A to point B, get something and come back. And the rest of the role is literally just kill as many animals as you can and bring them back here, and wait a long time and then earn a little bit of money. Might I add that the amount of animals needed before you can even make money is insane, as each animal does like 1% of the total amount needed to make a sale. So this means that the best way to earn money via this role is to find legendary animals, which are the rarest animals in Red Dead Online, which can take hours to find at times, and then deliver them to Cripps so that he can fill up 2/3 of the bar. Because yeah, it only fills up 2/3, so you'll have to do this multiple times. The only other benefit to having this role is that it gives you access to the Moonshiner role, which leads me on to the next role, which is the Moonshiner role, which I would have put as the second best if it wasn't for its price, since it costs 25 gold bars to purchase, and you need to have the Trader role already to have access to purchase it, so that totals out at 40 gold bars, which is absolutely insane, as that's the equivalent to roughly £15 when converted into real life money. So even if this role has the most content out of all of them, with an entire second campaign, a personal moonshine shack, and very good money making business, with quite a few missions, it's just not worth it. So for me, this is the third best expansion that you can buy. It's just a shame that it would take so long to get or cost so much money, considering that the game at full price is £20, and on sale it's £10. The second best expansion is the Collector role, as it adds a really good passive income method, where you can find rare objects scattered around the map, which you can sell separately or in sets for large payouts. Not to mention that if you were thinking of getting this role, I'd recommend checking out the fan-made collector map, which tells you where all the different things are for you to collect, so you could go around collecting a set or two, and then sell them for a massive paycheck in an hour. This is easily the best money-making method in the game, and I'll leave the map in the description so you can check it out. Okay, so now is the moment you've probably been waiting for. The best expansion in Red Dead Online is the Bounty Hunter expansion. This expansion adds easily the best missions in the entire game with its legendary bounties, as they are super cool and all unique bounty hunting missions that have awesome set pieces and different events or objectives in them. You also get access to doing smaller bounty hunting missions at any time, which can take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes to complete. And did I forget to mention that this role has the best payout from its missions in the entire game, with around 3/4 to 1 whole of a gold bar being handed out after each legendary mission, which is absolutely insane and makes it a must-buy for any beginners to the game, as it can save you hours of grinding. And if you still wanted more, you could even buy the second expansion to the Bounty Hunter role for a few more gold bars, which has shorter and even more unique and well-made bounties for you to collect. The Bounty Hunter role and its expansion are truly the highlights of Red Dead Online, and I wouldn't blame you if you bought the game just for these. Okay, so we're finally going to finish this review. So overall, I'd recommend this game to anyone who wants to play a really good Western game with a friend or two, or to someone who likes games where you do something and watch as a number goes up. So basically, just someone looking for a smaller MMO to play which is set in a more realistic world. Personally, if you were looking to buy it, I'd wait for it to go on sale, as from my experience it goes on sale quite often for around £10, which is what I would say is a fair price for what you get here. So for the final rating, I'm going to give it 8 chunks of baguette out of 10. I'd like to thank you for getting this far into the video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future content. It really helps the channel grow and supports me, especially since I spent a lot of time working on this video. Your support would truly mean a lot. With that being said, I'm your host Ethan and this was a review of Red Dead Online. Goodbye.